Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. It is January 4th. Happy New Year's to everyone. Today's webinar topic is going to be on wellness tips for a more peaceful new year, presented by Brooke Warrington. My name is Alyssa Atkins, and I am the Training and Development Coordinator for the Native Learning Center. And today I will be your webinar facilitator. A quick disclaimer before we get started. This webinar provides a summary of fundamental concepts, requirements, and/or procedures within the allotted 90 minutes. The material discussed does not illustrate all possible scenarios that could be applicable. The materials are protected by copyright, trademark, trade secret, and other intellectual property laws and treaties. The terms permit you to use the sites for your personal non-commercial use only. You may print or save copies of the site solely for your personal non-commercial use. You may not distribute, transfer, transmit, copy, upload, download, post, publish, display, perform, modify, or otherwise create derivatives work from any of the materials without the Seminole Tribe's prior written consent. Now I'm going to show you how to interact during the presentation. If you look at the top of your screen, you're going to see a hand. With that hand, you can raise hand, agree, disagree, applaud, laugh, or step away. Now your screen should look similar to the graphic here. To the bottom left, you will see a box that says Files. Here you will find any handouts or appendix items included in today's presentation. Please feel free to download a copy for yourself. Simply click the item you would like to download, then click the arrow pointing downwards to download and save onto your device. Once the item is downloaded, it should appear in your device's download section. The second box labeled Web Links is where you will find our survey about today's webinar, along with a link to join our email list and any other links that will be seen throughout today's presentation. Finally, to the right of the screen, we have a chat box available. This is how you will communicate with the instructor and NLC staff. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to interact by using the chat box. Simply type your message and hit enter or click that up arrow icon button to submit. Tech support issues should also be submitted here. Know that most can be solved by exiting and re-entering the meeting room. Let's all try out the chat box together now by typing in your name, where you're joining us from, and your tribal affiliation. And it is with a great pleasure that I introduce Brooke Warrington. Brooke, it sounds like we can't hear you.
Sorry about that, guys. Good afternoon. I'm so happy all of you are here with us today. I hope you had a great holiday season. I hope you're having a happy new year. And hopefully we can improve that new year even more by talking about how we can make it a bit more peaceful. All right, let's get started. So as Alyssa said, I'm Brooke Warrington. I'm the Training and Development Specialist here at the NLC. I'm really excited to do a webinar myself. It's a little bit of a trip being on the other side of things right now. But we're going to talk about some tools and techniques that you can use that's going to create a more mindful, balanced, and fulfilling experience with your new year. So we're going to talk about some of the science behind mindful breathing, its benefits, some simple and effective self-care practices that you can integrate, and just general tips on creating a more healthy and balanced lifestyle. So I would love it if you guys, while you're in the chat and you're putting in your tribal affiliation, where you're joining us from, I would love if you could also put into the chat, why did you choose to attend this webinar today? What drew you into wanting to have some wellness tips? And if you feel like it, maybe include a little emoji that shows how you're feeling right now in this moment. We want to start talking about honoring our emotions right away, so we can kind of start monitoring how we feel here. All right, I see people looking to improve their wellness. Love that. There we go. All right. So I'm Brooke Warrington. Before I worked at the NLC, I was a public school teacher. I was with Broward County Schools. And I happened to go into teaching right around the time that mindfulness and wellness was really, really popular in the education world. So while I was employed as a teacher, I worked for Broward County Public Schools. I also worked for a prep school in Tampa. I had the honor of learning different mindfulness programs, and I'm actually certified in 3 different ones. So I have been taught by the Center for Mind Body Medicine, I've been taught mindfulness-based stress reduction. And the private school I worked at was actually the pilot school for the Ruler 2 program. And that's something developed by Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. I also have a master's in teaching from the University of South Florida. So go Bulls if there's any other USF alums in the group. But yeah, so I'm a teacher. I'm bringing all this up because I was trained to facilitate this kind of stuff with kids and teens and young adults. But I want you to know that the tools that we're going to talk about today, it is universal. I used it daily to start my classes, to help my kids get centered, to help calm them. So even if you're not a teacher yourself, you might be somebody who runs meetings or different groups. So you can take some of these tools and implement them both in your professional life as well as, of course, for your own personal practice. I do want to note, like I said, I am a teacher. I am not a doctor. I am not a mental health professional. So know that everything that I'm presenting here is something that I learned from mental health professionals and doctors themselves. But you're hearing it secondhand. You're hearing it from me. I'm just a well-intentioned former teacher, and I took really, really good notes when I was learning this stuff. So just know that, again, I'm not a doctor. So none of this can be interpreted as medical advice. This is just for education and informational purposes. So I just want to note that. All right, so let's go ahead and take a poll. Before we open it up, I want to talk a little bit about what this is asking. So how often do you find yourself feeling overwhelmed by stress? So let's look at that word overwhelmed. I don't want you to think of it being as extreme as like debilitating, but I also don't want you to think of it as anything as mild as just being inconvenienced. Moments where you are kind of wondering like, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? So how often would you find yourself feeling overwhelmed by stress? And Oista, if you could go ahead and open up that poll for me, please. And you guys can answer. Do you feel that way multiple times a day? Do you feel that way multiple times a week? Maybe multiple times a month? Or are you somebody who rarely experiences this? Let's see what people are answering. Okay, so we have a lot for multiple times a week. Half for multiple times a week. So we do have some in the room who rarely experience that. That's awesome. But we have some for multiple times a day, multiple times a month. So definitely, we're struggling from time to time. Absolutely. Melissa, you can go ahead and close the poll. Thank you so much. So I just kind of wanted to see where you guys are with your stress management, because a lot of this is going to be stress management tools. I think I accidentally turned off my camera, guys. Give me 1 second. Let me put that back on. There we go. All right. Is my screen still sharing, Alyssa?
No, we're.
All right, no worries, guys. Let me do that again. Okay, are we back?
Yes, but we're on the poll.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Give us 1 second for some technical difficulties. No worries. All right. All right, and I think we should be back, right?
Yep, you're back.
Perfect. All right, guys, so let's keep moving. So why should we choose wellness in our life? I really like this topic because I think a lot of us have been here. Having a rough day, no worries. I ripped the paper towel, rips the second piece of the paper towel, and it's just like, why is the universe out to get me? That it happens because so many of us are so stressed out that you can almost think of yourself like a rubber band being pulled really tight. Or I always think about it as being like a dish rag where you twist it out to wring out all the water. When you're like that, when you're already like stretched too thin, when you're already twisted, the smallest thing is going to set you off, right? So we want to have less days like this. So know that if you cultivate some wellness in your life, it's going to help you to create an internal buffer for moments like these. You're going to have almost like a cloud of protection around you. There will still be days like this. I have to be honest. I don't know that any of us will ever, be good all the time, but we can have less days like this. So know that the benefits to cultivating daily wellness and mindfulness can lead to reduced stress levels. You can improve your mood. You can increase your energy levels. You can improve your sleep quality and have an overall greater sense of well-being. And who doesn't want that? So what exactly is wellness? Let's talk about it. It's a term that we kind of hear a lot, hear it in different contexts. So for the sake of this webinar, we're going to say wellness is the act of practicing beneficial habits on a daily basis in the pursuit of, or just simply the state of being healthy in the mind and the body through deliberate effort. Now you'll see that part about deliberate is underlined because it has to be intentional. You have to be doing it on purpose. It doesn't just happen, it is something that you have to build. A lot of us, we're happy all the time. We're good most of the time, and that's great. But some of us also have to really build that. Some of us have struggled with things in the past that have kind of knocked us off that path. So this is a way that we can get back on it. Know that there are different areas of wellness, and I included this specific graphic because I liked how it shows that all these different areas overlap with one another. So I'm not going to get into every single one. I'm in no way able to talk to you about financial health. That's very important, but that's not anything I know about. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit about physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and know that some of the other ones are going to be touched on just because they do overlap in so many ways. Let's keep going. So how about mindfulness? Mindfulness is defined as the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So know there, I'm referencing the words of Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn. And there's a reason I'm referencing him. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Sorry. You could also say it's simply the state of being present and fully engaged with what's happening in the moment. So when I say present, think about that, the present moment. It means you're right here, you're right now. You're not caught up in thoughts of something else that's already passed. You're not super intensely focused and stressing about what's to come. You're right here, you're present in the moment. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that, of course, what I'm teaching to you, I have learned through the lens of modern Western medicine. But of course, mindfulness meditation, it does have roots in ancient Eastern and Buddhist philosophy that date back to around 2,500 years. It's based on Zen, Tibetan meditation techniques. And the term mindfulness comes from the Buddhist concept of sati, which is defined as moment-to-moment awareness of present events. So the reason I referenced Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn is because him and his colleagues with the University of Massachusetts, they are a big influence onto why here in the West we learn about mindfulness. In 1979, he started a stress reduction center, and he is the one who developed the mindfulness stress reduction course. So I learned it through another gentleman, Mr. Chris Altzer. He was amazing. But what he was teaching to us is this program originally designed by Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn. But again, we're looking at everything that I've learned, and that was through the lens of modern Western medicine. But of course, it does have Eastern influences. It's just kind of repurposed. Something you can think about with mindfulness is that it's a cognitive skill, and it involves sustaining awareness of the contents of one's mind in the present moment. Sustaining awareness. I thought that was a really lovely way to phrase it. So some benefits if you start practicing mindfulness. Again, we're here to have a more peaceful new year. So you can use it as a stress management technique. It improves mental and physical health, attention skills, cognitive abilities, your emotional regulation, your ability to handle unexpected situations, and it can increase your joy and your happiness. It can help you improve relationships. It helps you work on your attention span, your concentration, your memory. It can help you improve relationships and have more enthusiasm for life. So just some things to keep in mind. All right. So with mindfulness, your bread and butter is going to be mindful breathing. Now, I want to point this out because some of you might be thinking like, sounds like meditation. It is. A lot of people would call it meditation because I learned in the sphere of education and specifically in the sphere of public education and secular education. You won't hear me call it meditation. That was kind of like drilled out of me when I was learning it because there was this fear that if parents heard their students or their children were learning it, there might be this idea that religion was being pushed on them. So you'll never hear me call it meditation. Like I said, that's been drilled out of me. I will always talk about it in the context of mindful breathing, but know that it is the same. And again, it's the main tool. So we're going to talk about what it is. We're going to talk about why it's helpful. We're going to talk about the science behind it. Again, remember, I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to explain it as best I can. And then we're going to try a little bit together. We're going to do some soft belly breath work. So hopefully you like it. So just like the slide says, mindful breathing, it's a deep breathing exercise. You're going to be sitting quietly, breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. And you're going to pay attention to the sensation of the breath as it comes in and it exits the body. Mindful breathing really doesn't have a goal. Neither would someone say meditation does. You want to be present. So if we call that a goal, we could say, if any, it's just to develop that calm, non-judgmental awareness, allow feelings to come, allow feelings to go, and you really want to not judge it. I heard it once described as being like an observation deck of your mind. Because when you start doing mindful breathing and you start practicing it more regularly, initially it's difficult. It's really hard for a lot of people to clear our minds because we have so much going on. But once you start to cultivate that silence, you'll start to notice patterns with your thoughts, and you'll start to notice what different things affect you, where your mind goes when left alone in silence. And, it's really interesting. You get to learn a lot about yourself that way. But again, we don't look at it with judgment. It's just simply seeing what's coming in, acknowledging it, and then bringing your attention back to the breath. So one of the reasons that this works so well as a stress regulation technique is because mindful breathing operates under that body and mind connection that we have. So think about the fact that sometimes we start the day stressed. Maybe we slept in, maybe we got caught in traffic on the way to where we were going. Maybe our kids were yelling for us. Maybe the dog went potty in the morning. Whatever it is, there can be certain stimulus that lead to us being stressed and a little bit frantic. And in those moments, you'll notice as you're thinking, oh no, I gotta get to work. Oh no, I'm gonna be late. Things are happening in your body. You're thinking those thoughts in your head, but things are happening in your body. Your heart rate is increasing. Maybe you're starting to notice a little moisture under the armpits. You can literally take what's going on in your mind, and that influences what you're feeling in your body. Great thing is, what mindfulness does is it honors that connection, and it teaches us that we can do the same thing in reverse. So if you can calm your body when you're feeling frantic, you can also, in turn, calm your mind, which is pretty amazing. So mindful breathing creates a relaxed state of moment-to-moment awareness. Again, we're noticing. And that's why it's critical to our stress reduction and self-awareness. Like I said, calming the body, calming the mind. You start to notice what's upsetting to you. What is it that stresses you out? Where do you hold that stress? All of this is information so that you can handle it even better. Okay, so the reason that we have this connection, again, I'm not a doctor, guys, but I'm going to explain it as best that I know it. So our brain's job is to keep our bodies safe. Stress is our body's response when we perceive change, because we perceive change to actually be a threat. Now, we still have the same brain that we did way back, thousands of years ago, where we were out living in the wilderness, having to hunt and gather our own food. And literally, where if you don't remember, oh, that's right, that's the cave that has a lion in it, we would literally get eaten and die. Now, obviously, throughout history, we are a lot more safe from dangers like that. For the most part, unless you like camping like me, we're not necessarily like out just kind of in the wilderness too much. Thanks to modern amenities, grocery stores, all that, most of us are not actually having to hunt and gather our own food unless, you just like to. But our brain is still the same. And so we still have this amygdala as part of our brain. You might hear people reference it as like our animal brain, our reptile brain, and know that your amygdala assesses danger. It even actually helps us connect with facial expressions so that we can read someone's face and kind of know if they mean us harm or not. But we used to have to hide from wild animals and to fight them for our food. Now we don't, but our brain is still there and it's still functioning under that same molecular science, if you will. So when we're stressed, our bodies go into fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Now, depending on your age, you have probably grown up hearing fight or flight. That's what I grew up hearing in science, fight or flight, fight or flight. When I was first learning mindfulness, the idea of fight, flight, or freeze, that was just starting to kind of take traction. I have a little star next to fawn because I'm starting to hear now we've developed a fourth one to acknowledge, and that's the fawn response. So let's go on to our next slide because I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about these. So fight, again, your body's reaction to stress. It doesn't necessarily mean, you're going to like square up with people, but you are going to react to some kind of stressor or danger with, being angry, expressing maybe that verbally or non-verbally. It's like a need to survive, a need to be threatening to protect yourself. This might manifest in like your regular day-to-day interactions with people as like needing to be right. And I struggle with that. Then we have flight. Obviously, we can't literally fly away, but it's referencing this idea of needing to just like get away from the situation, needing to isolate, needing to retreat. You can think of it as when you're having difficult conversations with people. If you're somebody who kind of just wants to like, I need space, I want to avoid it, that's your flight response. And know that we don't have like one particular response that we default to. We all at some point in life will experience all of them. Most of us have like two main ones that we have. So these newer ones, so freezing, just kind of shutting down, not literally paralyzed, but some people do kind of like dissociate or like space out. They're not really present anymore. And then this new one that I've been learning about is the fawn response. So that's to when you're faced with a threat to more try to please the danger or appease it. You're reacting with compliance. You have like a hyper awareness of the threat. So this is something that they're still kind of developing, still learning about, because for a long time we just thought it was fight or flight. Now we know there's actually several more things that can happen to your body. Something I wanted to tell you guys though. So with our bodies, fight or flight, it's designed to occur in short bursts. So many of us who are experiencing burnout right now and have been experiencing burnout for the last like several years, we're not meant to be this stressed out all the time. Between, the pandemic, all the different changes that's led to, different social unrest, just everything that has been playing out. And because of, our phones and the internet playing out in front of us kind of nonstop, we're completely inundated with these messages all the time. Our bodies really aren't designed for that. And so we've all been in like a state of almost like extended fight, flight, fawn, freeze. And so if you find yourself being tired and you're kind of like, man, I'm never going to burn out in my life, know that a lot of people are feeling that way. And that's a lot of why, because our bodies aren't made to be this stressed all the time. They're just not. So let's see if we can talk about some practices that we can help kind of shake ourselves out about it. A little bit more on the science though. So you can think of your body like a car. So we have a sympathetic nervous system That's the one that's like our gas, our acceleration. That's what gets like kind of revved up when you are facing some kind of a threat. Know that when you employ mindful breathing, it engages with your body's parasympathetic nervous system. And that is like kind of the brakes slowing down. So you can use this regularly to avoid getting too revved up, or you can use it, of course, in states where you find yourself really getting worked up. Now that you're going to learn about how to do mindful breathing, you can kind of pause, give yourself a moment, and hopefully try to, use that breath to disengage your fight or flight response. Because again, we shouldn't feel this way all the time. Our bodies weren't designed for this. Okay, so one of the tools that I had learned, this is originally the work of Dr. Mark Brackett. He wrote a self-help book called Permission to Feel. That's pretty popular. I didn't learn directly from him. He had sent one of his proteges to teach us, but we were taught the Ruler program. So know that Ruler is all about understanding your emotions. So Ruler is, you'll notice it's all caps because it's recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and then regulating. So recognizing, identifying emotion in oneself and others by interpreting facial expressions, body language, vocal tones. Understanding, knowing the causes and consequences of emotions, including the influence of different emotions on your thinking, your learning, decisions, your behavior. Labeling, developing words that you can use to identify how it is that you're feeling. Expressing, being able to know when it is appropriate to show what emotions with different people in different contexts. And then regulating, developing strategies that help us manage our emotions to support healthy relationships and achieve overall well-being. So using this tool that I have pictured on the slide here, the mood meter, this is something that is designed to help you start thinking about how you're feeling and how you would label that. So we have up here in the red, we have a quadrant, high energy, unpleasant. I've included the faces so we can kind of think, that's angry. You're revved up, but it's not a good thing. Opposite of that, high energy, pleasant. Not just sitting there like happy, but like ecstatic, excited, thrilled. Low energy, unpleasant, being sad, being down. And then low energy, pleasant, just kind of serene, calm. You're doing good. So the mood meter helps people build emotional awareness of themselves and others. It helps us consider how emotions influence thinking, motivation, daily goals, behavior. And it helps you to develop skills in recognizing and labeling your emotions. And that hopefully leads to understanding, expressing, and regulating. So know that reflecting on your emotions, reflecting on yourself, leads to the ability to make links between feelings, thoughts, and behavior. So something good to note, according to Ruler, all emotions are valid and adaptive when understood and managed effectively. Each emotion allows us to think a certain way and behave accordingly. So moderate levels of anxiety, it helps us to stay focused on our goals and to work hard. But then too much anxiety might leave us, in distress and unable to act. Similarly, some sadness in your life helps you to really sympathize with others and build positive relationships. But too much sadness can lead to depression. So one of the main things is it's all about balance. You're going to hear that a lot with these tools. So let's take a quick poll, but let's use the mood meter to chart us. So go ahead and pick a word or even a phrase, and you're going to answer that in the poll. And then identify which quadrant the word or phrase that you're feeling in falls under by color. So right now, word or phrase on how you're feeling, and then what color do you think that falls under? Give you guys a second to think about it. Again, we're just saying a word or a phrase. That's how we feel. And then what quadrant does that fall under? So high energy, unpleasant, high energy, pleasant, low energy, unpleasant, or low energy, pleasant. I'm going to go back here so I can see the poll. All right, I see some green, some yellow, some blue. Sleepy. Me too. Seeing some calm, grief loss. People are feeling hopeful. Okay. I don't see any red, which is good. I would feel a little bad about that, but awesome. Okay, so I wanted you guys to think about where you are feeling now. And then we are going to do a little mindful breathing to see if we can turn that around.
You just need to share your camera, Brooke.
No problem. Sorry, guys, it looks like it's a little clunky kind of going back and forth. My apologies for that. All right. Okay, let's do some mindful breathing together now. Okay, so again, like I said before, I used this in the context of classes, but I've also done it at staff meetings, parent nights, things like that. So know that, for you, if you're, not a teacher, you're not working with youth, you can still use this. You can use it to start meetings. It's a great way to get everybody kind of centered and calm. Something to note, you never want to force people to participate if you do use this with a group, including now. If you don't want to do this with me right now, no worries. You can just take a quiet moment to yourself while everybody else joins in. So let's go ahead and get into position. It sounds a little intense, but it's not. The way I've heard it explained is that you want to kind of think as there's like a string attached to the crown of your head. You want to be seated up straight, not to the point where you're uncomfortable. You just kind of think that so much of this is about breathing, right? So much of this is about our lungs. So you want to think of your lungs as a balloon. And we're going to be inhaling and inflating that balloon all the way, and then completely exhaling, letting that balloon completely flatten. So we want to sit up to the point where that balloon would have room to expand, right? If you're comfortable, of course, you can close your eyes. If you're not very comfortable with that, you can always do a soft gaze down in front of you, whether that's maybe like a desk or depending on where you're sitting, it might be a soft gaze down at the floor. But make sure that you are sitting. I don't know why anyone would be standing, but just in case, if you are standing, if you're not used to this kind of breathing, this really deep diaphragmatic breathing, it might make you a little bit lightheaded. So if you are for some reason standing, do me a favor if you're going to do this with us and just have a seat just in case, just so I know that you're safe. And it might help, some people like this, to place your right hand on your heart and your left hand on your stomach. A lot of times that'll help you kind of remember to focus on your heart rate and on your breath. It's just, nice. You're giving yourself a little hug. All right, so I am going to be doing a script, and this is from the Center for Mind Body Medicine. This is the work of Dr. James Gordon, and this is known as soft belly breathing. I did include a scan of it, or it's like a picture, but I did include the script. So if you enjoy this is something that resonates with you, fantastic. You are free to download that for yourself, use it when you need. After enough times reading through it, you definitely kind of have it memorized. And that you don't always have to read the whole thing every time. But I'm going to now, because some of this soft belly script, it goes into a little bit of science behind it. So I'm going to invite you guys to find your mindful posture. So remember, we're seated up. We don't want to be slunched over, because if we're hunched over, that means our lungs don't have as much room to expand, right? So remember, string to the crown of your head. We're seated up straight. We're relaxed. And if you want to close your eyes, I invite you to close your eyes now. If you would prefer to just do a soft gaze down, that's fine too. But go ahead and take a deep breath. Allow your eyes to close to remove external stimulation. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, just find a soft gaze on the floor. Begin to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. This is a very relaxing way to breathe. Maybe a little unfamiliar, but you'll get used to it after a little bit. Allow your belly to be soft and relaxed. If the belly is soft and relaxed, More air goes to the bottom of the lungs, where there's better oxygen exchange, which feeds all the cells in your body. It improves the metabolism of the working of the cells. And if the body is soft and relaxed, it helps to activate the vagus nerve. Vagus means wandering in Latin. This nerve wanders up through the belly, through the chest, to the central nervous system, to the brain, and it quiets the body. It slows heart rate, improves digestion, lowers blood pressure, helps muscles to relax, and it also quiets the mind. It reduces activity in the amygdala, a part of the emotional brain that registers fear and anger and exerts control over them. The vagus nerve is the antidote to the fight or flight response, your stress response. One branch of the vagus nerve connects with centers in our brain that make it easier to connect with other people, to bond. So when you're breathing slowly and deeply, in through your nose and out through your mouth, with your body soft and relaxed, you are relaxing your body and you're bringing your body into balance. You are quieting the fight or flight response. You're improving the activity in all the glands in the body, as well as in the nervous system, endocrine system. Your nervous system is improving your immunity, and you're decreasing the inflammatory response. You're also making it easier to connect with other people and to feel closeness, which helps relieve stress. If your belly is soft and your abdominal muscles are relaxed, then all the other muscles begin to relax as well. Perhaps you can feel that now. To encourage this process, you can say to yourself, soft as you breathe in, belly as you breathe out. If thoughts come, let them go, as you gently bring your mind back to soft belly. All right, folks, let's open your eyes, bring your awareness back to the room. Okay, so this time we are just going to be talking in the chat, no poll this time, but now that we have just done our first round of mindful breathing, I want you to send how you feel now into the chat and whether there was any kind of shift between how you were feeling before and how you're feeling now. Now, some of you might be kind of thinking like, oh, I don't know if I should send this into the chat. I just feel tired. I feel sleepy now. Well, my friends, that is okay. I am embarrassed to say that in not one, not two, but in all three of these certification programs, I fell asleep learning all the different breathings. One time laid out on the floor, we did like a body scan one, I was out. I fell asleep like sitting in chairs, learning just, normal mindful breathing, out. So know that if you were kind of getting a little snoozy here, that's okay. It happens to everybody. You do kind of pass that point after a while. So just kind of, how are you feeling right now? And then did you notice to any shifts? When I say shift, I just mean the way you were feeling before we did mindful breathing. Did that shift to a new way that you're feeling now? Is there any difference? So I'm gonna be looking at the chat. Oh yeah, it is very similar to yoga. Yep, a lot of them pull from the same techniques. Oh, and someone's feeling a bit more energy. That's awesome. We're all gonna experience different ones. Remember, we're just trying it out. Nothing's going to be a game changer in one single session. Remember in the beginning, you want to do this. You're cultivating a practice. You're going to try to build this up. Doing one round of mindful breathing, unfortunately, can't completely alleviate our stressful lives. But when we start doing it practicing it a little bit more each time, you'll notice that it does help. We see some people are feeling grounded. Oh, awesome. Love that. Great for relaxing my mind. Yay. Got somebody was feeling a little sleepy. Now they're feeling relaxed. Love it. All right. Thank you guys so much for sharing. Again, if it did make you tired, don't feel bad. I have full on fallen asleep and in training surrounded by other people. So, but lots of us fall asleep. It's not just me. I think that is a pretty regular thing because we're so used to doing deep breaths when we're going to bed. It's new to kind of start doing that with, an intention. All right. So more on kind of tracking your emotions. We talked about the mood meter. We looked at how we were feeling. We did some mindful breathing. We looked a little bit more at how we were feeling afterwards. So know that cultivating mindfulness in your life, it's going to help to create space between the trigger and the emotion, and then to help us understand where that perception comes from. So up here, you can see trigger leads to an emotion, leads to our response. So for example, we see something unfair. We witness something unfair. That's our trigger. The emotion that we feel in response to it might be anger. And then maybe our response is to yell. So know that you can also think of, which I called it a buffer earlier. Mindfulness can also be thought of as like a filter, because it helps to create that space so that rather than, having an immediate reaction, feeling anger and then yelling, we can maybe start to feel that anger coming on. Or we might still get angry, but we have a little moment of pause where instead of just reacting to something and yelling, we're able to have, a conscious response and just kind of give voice to, our feeling in a calm way rather than yelling. So if you are somebody who finds yourself being emotionally reactive, mindfulness does help with that. I know some yellers, and I know some kids who are really, they struggle to kind of contain their big emotions. And I would watch mindful breathing almost like show me a new kid by the end of the year. It really, really, really does help. Exactly, controlling your reaction. So it's a buffer, it's a filter. You might think of it as like an umbrella, something protecting you from you and the crap that life throws at us. So mindfulness is your crap umbrella. It's probably the worst way I've described it. Sorry, but I think you guys get what I mean. This is making sense. So some of you might have done the soft belly, and maybe that really wasn't your cup of tea. You didn't care for that. So know that there are other types of breath work that you can do. Soft belly specifically is a diaphragmatic breathing. So it focuses on that expansion of your diaphragm. But maybe you might like alternate nostril breathing. So someone had brought up yoga in the chat before. So you may have tried this yourself, this alternate nostril breathing. This is something from ancient yoga practice. And again, Western medicine has kind of taken from that. So we're seeing it through like a medical lens, but it is an ancient yoga practice. So this might be something that you like more, alternate nostril breathing. If you guys want to try it out with me, cool. If not, I can just kind of demo for a second what you do. So you would block one nostril. You would inhale through the one that's open. Then kind of pause. Now block the nostril you just breathed through, and instead exhale on the other side. Then we do the reverse. So we inhale. And just alternating back and forth. If you are somebody where your mind is very difficult to quiet and, just kind of enjoying the silence with mindful breathing isn't really cutting it for you, alternate nostril might be something that you like more because it gives you something to focus on as you remember which side and you're going back and forth. That's the same thing with 4-7-8 breathing. So 4-7-8 breathing, we inhale for 4, hold for 7, and then exhale for 8. Again, inhale for 4. Hold at the top for 7. And then exhale for 8. See, someone asked, how many times should you do it, the alternate nostril breathing? I've never been told like a specific amount of times to do it. I guess just until you're starting to feel calm. When I do that one, I don't do that one very often. So I find myself getting rather lightheaded, usually after like 5 back and forths. But, listen to your body. So another thing you can do when you're doing your breathing, not so much focusing on your diaphragm, but instead focusing on the main tension areas. So you would still be breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, but instead while you're doing it, you're going to focus on your eyes. A lot of us hold our tension up in our eyes. You'll check in with your body. Are you squeezing them shut like you're trying to hide from something? And then always let the exhale kind of just loosen your eyes. Then come down to your jaw. That's another one of our main tension areas. Focus on whether you have those teeth clenched. If you do, let an exhale, just let that jaw go slack. And then our third main tension area is, of course, going to be up here in our neck and shoulders. So I think I'm even kind of doing it right now. My shoulders are way up here by my ears. So if you're focusing on your tension areas during mindful breathing, just always allow those exhales to bring those body parts down. Let everything kind of go heavy. But eyes, jaw, and your shoulders, that's going to be those main areas. Chaotic breathing. All right, I've been kind of dreading this one. I do want to show you, because if there's someone in here who ends up benefiting from this style of breathing, I love that for you. And I hope you take it and do it every day. I hope it helps you. I personally am not super fond of it. And when I get up and show you what it is, I think you're going to know why. So ordinarily, we get to kind of tell people like, oh, everyone does this with their eyes closed, no judging others. But, this is a webinar and it's just me showing you. So chaotic breathing, we call it like it's kind of like a chicken. You should stand when you do it, but you can think of it like, we call it like the funky chicken breathing, or younger kids have called it booger snot, because it makes your nose run a little bit. But in chaotic breathing, you put your elbows up so that you have them at angles. Relax your shoulders a little bit. And then you are going to pump your arms. This is where the chicken part comes in. And you are going to inhale and exhale at a very quick rate through your nostrils alone. So our mouth is closed for this type of breathing. And you want to especially emphasize the exhale. So I'm just going to do this for a second. Again, if one of you loves it and it helps you, I love that for you. But know that I've been dreading this because it looks so different. But this is chaotic breathing. So I'm not trolling you guys. It's real. I was taught how to do that. I've done it in rooms full of other people doing it. That experience looks as ridiculous as you would think it does. But if you're not so much for the holding still, you're not so much for the slowing down. If you're somebody who has like a lot of energy bursting, that might be better for you because you give more motion to your body. That's chaotic breathing. Another type is body scan. I have actually included a script for that in the files pod, but that's just having a deep awareness of how the breath feels in all parts of your body and basically going down your body while you're doing your mindful breathing and kind of touching in with every part, noticing how you feel in your arms, noticing how you feel in your fingers, moving down to how you feel in your stomach, how do your legs feel, your feet, everything, just doing a complete scan of your body. And then of course, there are other styles. This is not an exhaustive list, but I just wanted to give some of you other ideas if, you didn't really like the soft belly, if that wasn't for you. because mindful breathing, like I said, it really is, it's your bread and butter. This is going to be like the main tool. So I encourage you to find one of these ones that you like, maybe a few, maybe some you like someday and other days you want to switch to something else. This is all, your personal individual feeling, what works for you. Again, a lot of these have origins in ancient yoga practice, and something, so I had put etc. down here for the other types of breath work. Know that if you are somebody who just sits in your room, blasting music in your earphones, droning out the world, that counts still. It really does. I had a student one year who the whole thing made him really uncomfortable when we were first learning. So he was somebody who I regularly was like, oh, it's okay. You don't have to join if you don't want. And I was talking to him one day and I asked kind of what is it that you don't like about it? And he said this thing that really struck me. He said, the quiet is so loud. The quiet is so loud. So if you're someone who, like that student, you are not used to having silence like that, and the quiet is loud, know that you can throw on some music. If you're still just sitting there with yourself, droning out the rest of the world, you're still doing some mindful breathing. It still counts. So just something to think about. And if you're somebody who doesn't like holding still at all, then maybe some mindful movement is more your liking. Some of us have conditions where we quite literally can't, hold still. Maybe you're antsy some days, other days you're not. But there is absolutely movement-based mindfulness, going on hikes, even just as pedestrian as walking your dog. Yoga, that's been brought up several times, absolutely. Dance, playing music, especially drumming, coloring, creating art in general. We see those like Zen coloring books that they sell at the grocery store now during the checkout. You don't have to go out and buy some expensive coloring book. You can just sit there and draw and just let it flow out of you. But know that's a mindful movement. You get lost in what you're doing. You're completely focused. So this counts. But none of what I'm teaching you, know that none of this is meant to be anything that I'm encouraging you to spend money on. I'm not, like I need $80 yoga pants before I can do it kind of person. And I'm not encouraging you to be that kind of person either. All of these things, you can do and you can implement into your life without having to spend a bunch of money. So someone said they like the sound of the fan. Yeah, absolutely. Or like the air conditioning, rain sounds. Yeah, totally. All right. So I kind of brushed on this, but I want to say it directly. So I'm giving you a bunch of different things that you can try. But I want you to think of this webinar as a menu. You don't, just like you wouldn't go into a restaurant and be expected to order and eat every single thing off the menu, although that could be fun. I don't expect you to take every single practice from this webinar and, do it every single day in your life. This is not an instruction manual. This is a menu. So you take what you like, what works for you, and forget the rest. As I said, I wanted to show that chaotic breathing. That does not work for me. I don't like it. I don't like doing that with my arms. I don't like feeling like I'm doing a strange version of the funky chicken. I don't like, feeling like stuff's coming out of my nose. It's not for me. But maybe it's for one of you. So again, take what works for you, leave what doesn't. This is a menu. And you can order or not order as much as you want. All right, so let's switch over to talking about self-care now. So again, we're going to talk about what it is. We're going to talk about more ways of honoring the individual and look at some possible areas where you can explore some self-care practices you can put into your life. So we are getting some ideas here. We got yoga, spending time with loved ones, teaching someone something, spending time with our animals, crafting, taking a bath. I feel like that one's always like the almost like stereotypical self-care, but it is nice. If you enjoy taking bubble baths, that might be your self-care. That's great. right, so self-care is any activity that we do intentionally. Again, that idea of intentional, just like before I mentioned deliberate. It's something that you're doing on purpose, and you're doing it so that you can take care of your mental, your emotional, your spiritual, and your physical health. It's simple, but it is something that we often overlook. This is going to be beneficial to everybody. Some people might see all this and you immediately see the value in doing something for yourself. Awesome. Some of you in here, maybe you're used to taking care of everybody else's needs, that sometimes you don't even think about yours. And maybe the idea of like doing something for yourself like this isn't really something that, excites you. Maybe you're kind of, you're not sure. But know that good self-care is the key to improve mood, reduce anxiety, and it helps with positive relationships with others. Because when we take care of ourselves, when we're kind to ourselves, it is that much easier to be kind to others, to push that outwards. If you have ever heard that idea of, there's a phrase, hurt people, when you have, that mingled pain inside, a lot of times that is what you project outward onto others. But if you work on self-care and instead you cultivate, some love, some compassion, some kindness for yourself, when you're doing it for yourself, it's that much easier to do it for others. And when you take care of yourself, it's also going to be something where you can help to take care of others too. Just to note what self-care is not. It's not something that we have to force ourselves to do or something that we don't even like doing. As Dr. Agnes Wainman said, it's something that refuels rather than takes from us. So if you saw the picture of the bubble bath and you're like, oh my God, I hate bubble baths. Ugh. That's not going to be your self-care activity then, because you don't like it. It's not something you have to force yourself to do. Self-care is something that you want to do and that leaves you feeling good. I quoted Dr. Wainman. She's a clinical psychologist. Her work focuses a lot on the gap between our expectations and the reality, and we are going to talk about her a bit later. So some of you might be thinking this sounds selfish. It sounds really self-involved. Self-care is not a selfish act. And just like the slide says, read that again, please. It's not selfish because it's not just about focusing completely on your needs. I'm not suggesting that you get completely wrapped up in your own needs and completely self-involved. It's not about that. It's about considering your needs, checking in with yourself, doing things that make you feel good. And when you feel good and when you're taking care of yourself, you are able to be there for the people that you love too. The way they taught us was to think about you can't pour from an empty cup. When your cup is empty, there's nothing left to give. And a lot of us, these cups have been empty, guys. We're tired. We're tired. We're burnt out. But you can't pour from an empty cup. So if filling your cup up for you is enough, you're already sold, awesome. But if it's not enough for you right now that you want to take care of yourself, just remember you can't take care of anybody else if you're not looking after you and refueling, you. But whichever side of the spectrum you fall on, no judgment. Everybody deserves self-care. All right, so self-care, we can improve relationships, we can increase self-esteem, we can build resilience, improve productivity, improve your sense of overall contentment and satisfaction. We can improve sleep quality, lower our stress levels, reduce risk of burnout. We've been talking about that. Boost your immune system, and it even decreases risk of heart disease, stroke, and illness. So it's going to help in a lot of different areas. I'm going to show a short clip. Awista, if you can let me know if you can hear the sound once it starts. So this is about 5 minutes long. I'll cut it a little bit early, but this is a clip from a show called Parks and Recreation. And I always think it's like the perfect way to explain self-care. But know that we're going to talk about it afterwards, but there's something that they do not really right. And then there's something that they nail it. So we're just going to watch this clip and then we will reconvene. And then Awista, let me know if you can actually hear it.
Yeah, Brooke, I can hear it.
Thank you.
Is in the building.
What you want to? Donatella.
T-Mobile.
3 words for you. Treat yourself. Treat yourself 2011. Once a year, Donna and I spend a day treating ourselves. What do we treat ourselves to?
Clothes.
Treat yourself.
Fragrances.
Treat yourself.
Massages.
Treat yourself.
Mimosas.
Treat yourself.
Fine leather goods.
Treat yourself.
It's the best day of the year.
The best day of the year.
I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about inviting Ben to come along with us today?
Why no? This is our thing.
He really seems like he could use a day off. He's like a skinny little rubber band that's about to snap in half.
Exactly. He doesn't know how to relax. Donna, you and I are relaxation professionals. There's no way Ben can slow down enough to keep up with us. I'm a Nubian princess. This is our holy day. It's a 1 day a year. I allow myself to be selfish.
Ooh, cupcakes.
Those are all for me, Jerry.
Oh, Lord. Is he eating soup on the bench alone? Tom.
Fine.
Come on, rubber band. Come with us.
What?
No arguing. And no soup in the bench. Eating.
What is happening right now? So, Treat Yourself Day is just a day where you go to the spa and then the mall.
I knew you wouldn't get it.
Well, I'm a relaxation novice. Give me some guidance.
Listen to me, Bento Box. The point of this is to pamper yourself. Just relax, man.
I can't. Something about the sound of harps that makes me nervous. Oh my God.
Hi, Donna.
Hey, relaxation lesson number 1, acupuncture. It's great for your back and your rear. Needles in your face, pleasure in your base. Just relax.
Okay. This is the most stressed out I've ever been in my life.
Ben, listen, I'm gonna talk to you about things you like to take your mind off the needles, okay? Accounting. Trigonometry. Stamps, probably.
More of a rare coins guy. Help me. Help me.
Welcome to Nirvana, the plaza at Eagleton. There's a reflecting pool out back, there's an old-timey train that runs through the mall, and 3 Burberries. If you tell your friend, hey, meet me at Burberry's, they gotta specify which one.
Let's hit it. I really want this dress, and I like this crystal beetle, but it's expensive, and there's no use for it.
Don Amigo, treat yourself. Velvet slippies, cashmere socks, velvet pants, cashmere turtle. I'm a cashmere velvet candy cane.
Treat yourself.
I mean, this is insane.
Man, did you buy anything for yourself today?
Yeah, I got this pack of socks.
Plain white socks? That's
Yeah.
not a treat. Donna, get me away from him.
Maybe this is our version of Treat Yourself Day, and he needs to do his version.
What are you talking about?
Why, if you could blow big money on one thing, not sock money, what would it be?
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. This is a whole new level of nerd.
You're right. This is ridiculous. What am I doing?
Wait, no. I mean that in a good way, Ben. Listen to me. You're part of the Treat Yourself team now, okay? If that costume somehow makes you happy, you're gonna buy it. You're gonna wear it out of the store, okay? You're gonna treat yourself.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna treat myself. Thanks, you guys. Thank you.
Okay, so like I said, I wanted to show this clip for 2 different reasons. There's something, well, there's a couple of things they get really right, but there's something that's a little not actually in line with self-care. Target runs. Same here, Marie. So something that they
I really needed this.
get wrong, well, not wrong, but just I wouldn't advise it, is self-indulgence. So self-care and self-indulgence. Remember I said self-care is not selfish. The 2 terms sometimes get brought up as though they're the same thing, but they're not. There is a subtle and crucial difference, and that's with intention and consequence. So self-indulgence, that's going to be like eating cake every day. It's more focused on the short term. There's immediate gratification, and that gratification often comes at the expense of your future well-being. So it's a temporary escape. It's not sustainable. And sometimes it's going to leave you feeling drained or guilty. So some examples of that: excessive oversleeping, doom scrolling on your phone, binge watching. Okay, to some degree we all binge watch, but like I'm talking like the entire day. You're calling out of work because you're too busy binge watching shows. And then notice what that next one says: overspending. So they frame their self-care as, she even said, blow big money. We don't need to do all that. Most of us do not have big money to blow altogether. So that part is not really in line with self-care. And then unhealthy substances. Self-care is more like tending to a garden. You're focused on the long term. You're making investments for your future. What you're doing is going to nurture you in the present as well as in the future. It's proactive. It's sustainable, meaning you can continue doing it. And it's going to leave you feeling energized and resilient. Like having nourishing meals, regular exercise, reading a good book, spending time in nature, practicing healthy boundaries, protecting your time, that kind of thing. So remember, it is okay to treat yourself occasionally. Absolutely. You take that Target run and you enjoy it. I love my Target. I totally get it. But also be mindful, unlike Donna and Tom, about the difference between indulging in a sweet treat or taking a mental health day that's part of a balanced lifestyle, as opposed to like overdoing it and using it as a coping mechanism and then leaving you in a place where like you are not good. So just want to include this because it's hilarious, but also just something to remember. While you're thinking treat yourself, your bank account is probably thinking do not treat yourself. So remember, once again, it's about balance. So that was the part that they didn't necessarily get right, but something that they did, this could be you, friends, tending to your garden. Something that they did get right was this idea of individuality, honoring that individuality. What works for you guys might not work for the next person. What was working for Donna and Tom, that is not what Ben needed in that moment. Ben tried to do the acupuncture, the most stressed he's ever been. So just, again, be true to yourself, go with what feels good for you. And again, I'm not advocating for you to blow money. Special treat every now and again is awesome, yes, but be within your means and make sure you do the stuff that you like. Make sure if you're going to do a special treat, it's a treat that you like. It's going to leave you feeling good. And then again, I really want to just highlight that idea that it's all for the individual. So we have another one of the Nathan Pyle comics. So I have yet to witness all your emotions, and I felt I should inquire. And according to the little guy, this is him thriving. He is currently ecstatic. So what self-care works for one person might not work for the next. So if you ever see me eating a barrel of cheese puffs and playing video games, like I'm probably not good. But for him, that's him ecstatic in the little cartoon. So just remember, menu, you take what you want, leave what you don't, not an instruction manual. Take whatever practices that you like and leave the rest. It's all about what feels good for you. And when you're focusing on what self-care makes you feel good, you are furthering that journey of being more aware of your emotions and your feelings, which is going to help you regulate. So all good things. All right, so we talked about what self-care is. We talked about what it isn't. And now let's talk about some areas that you can practice self-care and some ideas for how you can do that. So maybe we want to focus on our mental. So mental self-care are activities that promote cognitive well-being and take care of the mind. You'll notice every single list I'm about to show you, it says etc. at the end, because none of these are going to be exhaustive lists. I just tried to pull as many of the activities that I could think of. So we might journal. Journaling is really good for your mental self-care because sometimes we don't actually know what we think about a problem until we start working our way through it in writing. Reading, learning a new skill or hobby, puzzles, brain games, think like word searches, crossword puzzles, Sudoku, things of that nature. Crafting, creating art. Maybe you're not big on art, but you want to express creativity. Cook, Cooking is a creative activity as well. Setting boundaries helps take care of your mental. You don't want to, give more of your time than you actually have to give, because then it leaves you feeling, stressed out and you're thinking about how you never should have done this. So practice some boundaries. Choosing to find the silver lining in situations. Trying to shift your mindset to one to be more positive. That's going to definitely be a huge mental self-care. And you can do that by practicing gratitude. So a lot of us, you got to think like we basically kind of train our minds over time. So if you're somebody who is constantly like complaining about what went wrong, what you don't have, you're that's training your brain to think that way. And you'll notice it kind of spirals. And it's hard to get out of that, because then it's like every situation you look at, you're looking for what's wrong. We don't want to do that. We want to try to start thinking about like what's right. It's a happier experience for us. So a way you can do that is by practicing gratitude. At the end of every day, write down 3 things that you were grateful for, and then start retraining your mind to start noticing the good in things. It leads to overall a lot more happiness. I don't even want to necessarily try to explain the brain science behind it, but know that you can literally like change the surface of your brain by noticing when you're doing something negative, like complaining, and then pivoting to something like practicing gratitude. You literally, it's called like remyelinating the sheaths in your brain, but you're basically like rewiring your brain to notice good things, which leads to you being happier. So all this stuff, it works. It really works, I promise. Setting goals, practicing authenticity, meaning being yourself. It's a lot better on your mind when you're just being yourself, rather than having to like keep up an act and faking it. And again, etc. There's more, but there's some to get you started. Maybe you want to take care more of your emotions. So of course, mindful breathing, calming you down, spending time with your loved ones, having a support system, fostering connection with others. Therapy. Listening to your favorite song, developing healthy coping skills, practicing compassion with yourself and with others. Again, journaling. Remember, some of these areas overlap, so you'll see some of these self-care practices repeated. Social media breaks, maybe muting or unfollowing negative accounts that make you feel kind of icky when you look at them. Allowing yourself to express yourself, feel catharsis. Forgiving yourself. Know that emotional self-care, it's all about nourishing and managing your emotions. So I brought up that term of catharsis. So know that catharsis is getting rid of unhappy memories or strong emotions like anger or like sadness by expressing them in some way. So if you listen to a sad song, you release sad feelings and you clear the way for balance. Know that the word catharsis comes from ancient Greek, and it means purification or cleansing. Dr. James Gordon, the Center for Mind Body Medicine founder, he says that emotions like curdle, like milk, when they're not given a release or an expression, and that is what leads to us hurting. There's this great Mark Twain quote that when he taught that, I immediately thought of Mark Twain, because he has the line, I'm paraphrasing, but it's, anger does far more damage to the vessel in which it is stored than it could to anything on which it is poured. So I really felt like that connected with what he said about, your emotions curdling. When you hang on to any kind of negativity, sadness, especially like anger and nastiness, you're going to hurt other people, sure, but it does so much more damage to you than it ever could to anyone else. So you gotta let that go. And sometimes forgiving yourself can be a way to help that. I actually, in the files pod, you'll see a forgiveness meditation. I encourage you guys to download that and try it. That one's very personal, so we're not going to do that one in here, but that is available for you in the resources. So physical self-care. Basic nutrition, hydration, exercises, a healthy body is going to respond to unavoidable stress that life throws at us so much better than an unhealthy body does. So you want to be taking care of yourself, getting enough sleep, 8 hours, stretching, doing yoga, going for a walk, getting fresh air, being in the sunshine, getting some vitamin D, eating nutritious foods. Think about trying to create a rainbow on your plate, because they say when you have all different colors on your plate that you're hitting all the different vitamins that you need. Practice mindful eating. So many of us, we eat dinner watching shows. We're unwinding. It's great. But then our awareness is on whatever we're watching or doing as opposed to being on us eating. So mindful eating, you are in the moment you're eating. You notice when you're full, which is great for your physical health. If you guys have ever seen, there's an old Louis D.K. stand-up where he talks about that he doesn't know what that's like to, stop eating when you have your nutrients. He says, I stop eating when I hate myself. So of course, from time to time that's going to happen. You're going to overeat. But if you practice mindful eating and you pay attention to how your body's feeling while you're nourishing yourself, you can notice when you're full and start practicing better eating habits. Of course, drink water. Can't say that enough. Maybe a skincare routine, taking care of your skin. Prioritizing your needs, regular health checkups, exercise, maybe aromatherapy, getting massages, maybe even just massaging, yourself. Doesn't necessarily have to be paying to go out and do it. There's so many YouTube videos. There's a lot that you can do. And then the last one I'm going to show is spiritual self-care. So this is a big one. It's going to center on your faith, your religious practices. You might practice it by reconnecting with deity or cultivating spiritual connections and values. Outside of religion and meditation, journaling, it can help to align your mind, body, and your spirit. So maybe alone time, sitting in silence, being in sacred spaces, being in healing circles, prayer, chanting, mantras, of course, smudging, spending time out in nature, doing things in the service of others, again, mindful breathing, journaling. If you want to experiment with some crystals, some tarot cards, reading self-help books, decluttering the space around you, having some minimalism, and then just, of course, some reflection and contemplation. As always, this is not an exhaustive list. There are more. I'm just trying to give you some ideas to get you started. Oh, sorry about that. I don't mean it to be offensive, more kind of exploring what different practices make you feel good. But know that self-care, it's essential for your overall well-being. Just like you check in with your loved ones, you want to check in with yourself, see how you're doing. There's not going to be any right or wrong way to do self-care. Like I said, what works for you might not work for the next person. It's just important to find activities that you enjoy and that help you feel good. Remember, don't be afraid to take time to yourself. It's not selfish. You're taking care of yourself so that you can continue to go through life and do the things you need to, feeling good. And sometimes that is helping others. But you want to be attuned to your needs, your overall wellness. And when you take care of yourself, better able to be present for others and improve your relationships. There is one final thing. So I leave this as last because I have to be honest with you guys. I'm not good about this part yet. But it's important to be proactive about your self-care. You don't want to wait until you're burnout, you're really spinning out to start kind of taking care of yourself. You want to start cultivating it into your day-to-day so that you can have it as a regular part of your routine and avoid hitting burnout. Like I said, I'm not so good at that yet. I'm really good at using self-care and mindfulness to kind of pick my way back up out of a hole, but I'm still working on that, using it to avoid falling into the hole to begin with. Know that, like I said way earlier in the webinar, it's not like a one and done kind of thing. This isn't something that you're going to do overnight and it's going to fix your life. This is something where you're going to try, you're going to experiment, you're going to see what works, see what doesn't. Maybe you try just instituting one self-care idea into your day-to-day, and when you're comfortable with that, start doing more. It's all going to be based on, how you feel. Doing what helps you to feel comfortable. Something you can do too is ask advice when you're struggling. Self-care can be challenging, and asking for help when you're struggling is absolutely okay. Talk to your friends, your family, mental health professionals for support and guidance on your self-care journey. Just remember, it is personal to each and every person. And it might take a little time to cultivate, it's a journey, but it will definitely be worth the effort. So just some final tips. These were ones that I didn't really feel like they fell into any category or another. Just things you can think about. So again, we're going to build wellness that's sustainable, small steps. It's not going to happen overnight. This is going to be a journey. For some people, like a lifelong journey, and that's awesome. Calling plants by your first name. So a lot of us, if you are someone who struggles with practicing self-compassion and being kind to yourself, if your inner critic is really, really harsh and that voice inside your head is constantly telling you what you're doing wrong, berating you, self-flagellation, that kind of thing, your body can feel that energy, can feel those thoughts. So something that I read about that you can do to help fix that is by calling plants by your first name. So we know that plants grow better and thrive more when they're around tender, loving care. So if you're talking to your plant and you are calling it by your first name, even if it feels kind of silly at first, your body is still hearing those kind words directed at your name. And it can kind of help improve your well-being and help you on that journey to practicing kindness with yourself. Another thing that might help, thinking of emotions as comfortable and uncomfortable, as opposed to thinking of them as positive emotions and negative emotions. Positive and negative, that has this connotation that one is bad, one is good. But when we think about things as being just simply comfortable or uncomfortable, it's easier to cultivate that non-judgmental awareness that we talked about earlier. Try different forms of movement until you find the one that you enjoy. So for your physical self-care, fitness, exercise, aerobics, movement, it is important, but something that'll help, find the movement that you actually enjoy doing. Take that nod from self-care. It's not going to be something that you dread. It's not going to be something that leaves you feeling drained. You enjoy it. You love it. So movement is so important. Find the one that you like. And then I had brought up Dr. Wayneman before. So her work is all around our sadness that we have because our expectations and our reality don't align. So she suggests the expectation cure, which is being conscious, unpacking, rewriting, and executing. So I'm going to give you a little more about that. So from the moment we're born, we breathe in expectations of our family, our society, our cultures, and this kind of creates this template for what our life should be. So the first step is being conscious of this expectation that you are trying to meet. Notice what it is, then unpack, where did that come from? Why do I feel like things should be this way? Is that even actually what's best for me? Is it what I want? Why is it that that's there? Then rewrite it. Give yourself a new expectation, a new bar that you want to reach that's aligned with what you really feel like. And then, write it down. Go for it. But again, her work is all about how so much of the pain that we feel is because the reality of life is so far from how we expected it to be. But we expect it because of, things that we hear, ways that we're socialized. So rewrite it. Rewrite one that aligns with you. Don't, dwell on what isn't. Embrace what is. And this one I love. So again, if you're somebody where it's hard for you to be kind to yourself, your inner self-critic is harsh, something that you can do to start creating true self-love with yourself is when you're going to make a decision, just kind of ask yourself, what would I do in this moment if I was someone who loved myself? That might be something as small as eating some fast food for lunch versus eating the meal you cooked at home and brought. It might be something as big as staying in a relationship that isn't healthy for you. So just start asking yourself that when you go to do things. What would I do in this moment if I was someone who loved myself? And when you start having that intention, when you start directing those actions as someone who loves themselves, before you know it, that's exactly who you are. All right, so so many of you who are in our audience are Native or you work with Native people. So when I learned about this, it was all about teaching children. So this I had to kind of look into myself. But if a lot of what is in this presentation maybe sounds and feels familiar to you, note that that makes sense because there are a lot of parallels between mindfulness and Indigenous culture practice. So focusing on awareness and interconnectedness, cultivating silence, listening deeply, nurturing a shared intention, attending to water, earth, animals, plants, fire, and food, as well as fellow community members, including ritualized components that teach and promote regulation, a relational process better fitting the collective, de-emphasizing verbal directions and corrections in favor of observing and modeling behaviors, and then valuing virtue, righteousness, and balance. So again, if a lot of this did sound familiar, there are several parallels. So that makes sense. And if you want to read more about that, I included the name of the article and the authors down in the corner. If you, on the other hand, feel somewhat disconnected from the wellness practices, I said it a few different times, it's because they're taken completely out of cultural context when they're used in modern Western medicine. So everything I was taught was through that lens. But you can take them back, find ways to connect with them, make them your own. Even if you don't feel close to your roots personally, you still have the right to use the cultural healing practices that have helped your people forever. And they're a great way to connect with your heritage and improve your mental health. So again, it's a menu, not an instruction manual. You decide what works for you, do what feels right, and skip the rest. All right, guys, and then just to kind of bring it all back together, you came because you wanted a more peaceful experience in 2024. We want to stop being the guy on the left and start being the girl on the right. We want to ease away from that overwhelming stress. We're going to feel like that from time to time still, of course, but we want to find ourselves feeling more content. So let's all start with something small, and we'll build and we'll build and we'll build until you notice that far more often you are feeling like the person on the right than the person on the left. And hopefully some of this has helped. This is included in the files pod if you just want to download this page. And then, of course, the whole presentation itself is for you in the files pod as well. So this is a lot of resources. The bottom half, this is what I've been working with for a long time. But since most of you are Native, I'm sure you would rather hear wellness and healing from others like you. So know that every resource that's above the gray line, this is all Native wellness resources for Natives by Natives. And I highlighted a couple of the yoga videos in case you wanted to try that. So I hope that you get, something to take away from this that helps improve your 2024, make it a little more peaceful, a little less stressful. And of course, if you guys have any questions, you are more than welcome to reach out to me, fortborington@semtribe.com. But otherwise, we are right on time, guys. I'm going to hand it back over to Awista. And if y'all have any final questions, feel free to send it into the chat. And remember, those resources are available for you in the files pod. Forgiveness meditation, the soft belly script, the presentation, that resources page. There's some good stuff in there. So even if maybe you're not really feeling it right now, download it. You never know when you're going to feel like checking it out. So thanks so much for coming today, guys. I want to wish you a happy new year. And Awista, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thank you, Brooke. You did an incredible job. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I went ahead and already launched the survey. It is greatly appreciated. If you could just go ahead and let us know what you thought about today's webinar. Please include what you would like to see in the future. And if there's anything that you would like us to talk more about, please let Brooke know. And I'm sure she would be more than happy to do so. Our next webinar is going to be January 9th. It is Best Businesses to Start This Weekend. presented by Russ Siegel, Executive Director of the Sequoia Fund. As always, registration is free. It will be at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Pacific, and 10 a.m. Alaska. You can always access our recordings, including this one, on our website at www.nativelearningcenter.com. All of our webinar recordings will be posted on our website under the Catheta Recorded Webinar tab for up to 2 years. If you have any problems finding a webinar recording, please feel free to email me and I'd be more than happy to help you find the webinar recording that you are looking for. Please check out our upcoming events on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We also have a podcast called Hope a Thing, a Native American Podcast, and you can find that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Simplecast. Thank you all once again for joining us today. I hope today's webinar resonates with you and you're able to use it for this wonderful new year. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and thank you, Brooke.